You got the rifle.
If you value your life, stay out of that hallway. Those were the chilling words barked by a high-level security chief just moments before the world of hip-hop was turned upside down. Forget everything you thought you knew about peace treaties and the maturity of rap legends. Last night, the mask of civility didn't just slip, it was ripped off and trampled under the designer boots of the two most dangerous crews in history. A leaked, high-definition security feed from the dark VIP corridors of a sold-out arena has just surfaced, and what it shows is not a disagreement. It is a full-blown, blood-boiling declaration of war. Jim Jones, G-Unit, Backstage. The footage is raw, the screams are real, and the betrayal that triggered it is deeper than anyone could have possibly imagined. We are talking about a confrontation so violent that even seasoned industry veterans are calling it the death of the truce. But what really happened when the cameras weren't supposed to be rolling? Why did a simple walk to the dressing room turn into a near riot that required 50 armed guards to intervene? And most importantly, what did 50 Cent do in the aftermath that has sent Jim Jones into a total spiral of fury? You are not ready for the truth the industry is trying to scrub from the internet. Stay exactly where you are because we are breaking down every second of the chaos that has New York City on the brink of a total hip-hop collapse. To understand the explosion that rocked the arena last night, you have to realize that this wasn't a random occurrence. This was destiny. This was a powder keg that has been sitting in a room full of sparks for 20 agonizing years. The history between Jim Jones and G-Unit isn't just a rap beef. It is a poisonous saga of New York dominance, fractured brotherhoods, and psychological scars that never truly healed. Since the mid-2000s, New York has been a divided kingdom. On one side, you had the flashy, untouchable charisma of Dipset, led by Cameron with Jim Jones as his most loyal, ride-or-die general. On the other side stood the iron-fisted, relentless power of G-Unit, led by the tactical genius and master of chaos, 50 Cent. The tension between these two camps was never just about music. It was about who owned the streets of Harlem versus the blocks of Southside Jamaica, Queens. It was about who moved more units and who had the most real street soldiers behind them. But the real poison, the moment that ensured this conflict would never die, was injected in 2007. In a move that is still studied by industry insiders as the ultimate divide-and-conquer strategy, 50 Cent did the unthinkable. During the height of his brutal war with Cameron, 50 invited Jim Jones and Juelz Santana onto his own stage as surprise guests. 50 didn't do it out of love. He didn't do it for unity. He did it to humiliate Cameron. He did it to show the world that even the most legendary crews have a price and a breaking point. Jim Jones later admitted in rare, candid moments that that specific night felt like a devious chess move that nearly dismantled Dipset from the inside out. The betrayal was logged, the disrespect was filed away, and Jim Jones spent the next 2 decades carrying that weight, waiting for the day he could reclaim his pride. For years, the hate simmered just beneath the surface. It manifested in slick shots during radio interviews, trolling Instagram posts, and a relentless digital war. Every time the public thought these men had grown up, 50 Cent would drop a devastating meme about Jim Jones's finances or his alleged legal troubles. 50 Cent turned pettiness into a billion-dollar brand, and Jim Jones became his favorite, most reactive target. In recent months, the temperature reached a terrifying boiling point. 50 began leaking inside reports about Jim's podcast studio and embarrassing details about his property disputes. He didn't just target Jim's music, he targeted his livelihood and his reputation as a boss. He turned Jim Jones into a laughingstock for millions of followers, systematically stripping away the King of Harlem aura. The industry knew that sooner or later, these two worlds would collide in a physical space. They knew that no amount of security or industry rules could keep 20 years of bottled-up resentment from exploding once they were trapped in the same building. And last night, at the Legends of the East Coast concert, that collision finally happened. The air was thick with static the moment Jim Jones stepped into the venue. The G-Unit camp was already there, entrenched like a military unit, waiting like a predator that had been poking its prey for far too long. What was supposed to be a celebration of hip-hop was about to become the scene of its most violent, career-altering chapter. The stage was set, the players were armed with years of grudges, and the result was a night of chaos that New York will never forget. The clock struck 11:45 p.m. The lights in the arena were blinding, and the bass from the main stage was thumping so hard the floor was vibrating. But backstage, in the Red Zone VIP corridor, the atmosphere was dead silent and ice-cold. Jim Jones was moving through the narrow hallway with a small, elite crew of his most trusted associates, headed toward the exit. Suddenly, the heavy industrial double doors at the end of the hall swung open with a bang that sounded like a gunshot. Emerging from the shadows was the G-Unit vanguard, Tony Yeo, Uncle Murda, and a wall of men that looked like they were carved out of granite. According to leaked eyewitness accounts from terrified backstage staff, there was no "what's up?" or "how you doing?" There was only a wall of silence that felt like a physical weight. The two groups stopped just 10 feet apart. The air was thick with the scent of expensive cologne and cheap adrenaline. The first shot wasn't a punch. It was a verbal grenade that changed the energy of the room instantly. A high-ranking member of the G-Unit camp stepped forward, looked directly at Jim Jones, and whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "I heard the locks are changed on the studio, Jimmy. You looking for a place to sleep tonight, or you need 50 to co-sign a lease for you?" The reaction was instantaneous and explosive. Jim Jones didn't just respond, he erupted. "You think this is a game? You think this is the internet," he screamed, his voice cracking with 20 years of suppressed rage. The footage, which has been circulating on private Telegram groups and encrypted industry chats, shows Jim Jones lunging forward, his hands reaching for the throat of the man who spoke. Within 3 seconds, the hallway turned into a blur of black hoodies, flying jewelry, and pure, unadulterated chaos. This wasn't a rap fight. This was a New York street war happening in a 10-foot-wide hallway. You can hear the sickening thud of bodies hitting the industrial walls and the frantic shouting of female assistants trying to flee the carnage. Security guards, caught completely off guard, were being tossed aside like ragdolls as the two crews collided. Jim Jones was fighting like a man possessed, fueled by every meme, every joke, and every digital insult 50 Cent had ever thrown at him. But then, in the middle of the melee, the first shocking twist occurred, a moment so unexpected it froze the entire hallway in a state of pure terror. As the G-Unit camp pushed Jim Jones back against a set of equipment crates, a voice boomed over the shouting. It wasn't a threat of violence. It was a threat of total destruction. A G-Unit associate pinned Jim Jones's arm and yelled, "Stop moving, Jim. We got the paperwork. We know who you called in 2019. We know why the feds walked away from the podcast studio case." The hallway went ghost quiet for a split second. The fighting didn't just stop. It evaporated. Jim Jones's face reportedly went from a bright, furious red to a ghostly, sickly pale. This wasn't about a studio anymore. This wasn't about 50 Cent's petty Instagram posts. This was an accusation of the ultimate sin in hip-hop, cooperation with the authorities. The look in Jim Jones's eyes wasn't anger anymore. It was a look of pure, unadulterated panic. He looked like a man who had just seen his entire legacy crumble in front of a dozen witnesses. The fighting resumed, but the energy had shifted from a brawl to a desperate, violent struggle to silence the man who had spoken. Jim Jones was screaming, trying to get to the speaker, but he was being held back by his own team, who realized the situation had escalated far beyond a simple backstage scrap. Security finally managed to deploy industrial-strength pepper spray, filling the hallway with a stinging mist that forced both groups to retreat. Jim Jones was dragged away by his team, his shirt torn, his chain tangled, and his breathing heavy. But as he disappeared behind the security doors, the G-Unit camp stood their ground, laughing. They weren't bleeding. They were celebrating. Because they knew they hadn't just won a fight. They had dropped a nuclear bomb on Jim Jones's reputation. And here is the part that will make your skin crawl. Where was 50 Cent during this bloodbath? Sources say he was sitting in his dressing room just 3 doors down, watching the entire confrontation on a private security monitor. He didn't even have to put on his sneakers. He sat there, sipping luxury champagne, and reportedly told his assistant, "Record that." That's season 2 right there. He didn't lift a finger, yet he had managed to make Jim Jones look vulnerable, desperate, and most damagingly compromised. The industry is in a state of total shock. If G-Unit actually has the paperwork, Jim Jones isn't just in trouble with the rap world, he's in trouble with the streets of Harlem. The fallout from this one hallway clash is already starting to tear New York apart, and the details coming out are getting darker by the minute. You have to ask yourself, if you were Jim Jones and your biggest enemy just told the world he is proof you're a snitch, how far would you go to stop that proof from coming out? By 2 a.m., the Backstage brawl wasn't just a rumor, it was a global digital wildfire. Within minutes of the pepper spray clearing that hallway, the internet began to bleed leaks. But this wasn't just gossip, this was a coordinated, high-level destruction of a legacy. Every major blog, every insider, Twitter account, and every street culture forum was flooded with a single, devastating word: paperwork. The narrative shifted with terrifying speed. People weren't talking about the punches thrown. They were talking about the look on Jim Jones's face when those accusations were yelled. 50 Cent's G-Unit soldiers didn't just win a physical scrap. They had planted a seed of doubt so deep that it threatened to delegitimize the King of Harlem title forever. Fake Twitter threads began popping up with leaked transcripts of what G-Unit was allegedly referring to, claims that Jim Jones had a secret meeting with federal investigators regarding a 2019 racketeering case that had been mysteriously swept under the rug. But then, at 4:30 a.m., the second shocking reveal hit the timeline, and it sent the entire industry into a state of pure panic. A mysterious, anonymous account with 0 followers posted a screenshot of a deleted DM allegedly sent from 50 Cent to Jim Jones just 10 minutes before the hallway clash occurred. The message was cold, short, and calculated. It read, "I'm not the one you should be worried about, Jimmy. Your own circle already sold the footage to the feds. I'm just here to watch the show." The internet absolutely imploded. This changed everything. If the DM was real, it meant the hallway clash wasn't just a random run-in. It was a setup. It meant that Jim Jones was being betrayed by the very people he was walking with. Was there a rat inside Dipset? Was someone in Jim's inner circle feeding 50 Cent information in exchange for a way out of their own legal troubles? The level of paranoia in the hip-hop world hit an all-time high. People began analyzing the security footage frame by frame, zooming in on Jim's associates. Who was holding their phone? Who was looking at the cameras instead of the fight? Who seemed to be allowing the G-Unit camp to get that close? The leaked DM racked up 10 million views in under 2 hours. 50 Cent, the master of psychological warfare, had turned Jim Jones's own brothers against him without even stepping out of his dressing room. The escalation didn't stop there. Major news outlets began picking up the story, framing it as a violent return to the 90s era. The NYPD reportedly opened an inquiry into the disturbance, which only added more fuel to the paperwork fire. If the police were now looking into a fight where snitching was the main accusation, Jim Jones was trapped in a catch-22. If he cooperated with the investigation to defend himself from the assault, he would prove G-Unit right. If he stayed silent, he looked like he was hiding a much darker secret. Every question raised 10 more. Is Jim Jones a target of his own crew? Did 50 Cent orchestrate the entire fight just to make that DM go viral? And most importantly, what is on the actual paperwork that G-Unit claims to hold in their hands? The cliffhanger was palpable. New York was holding its breath, waiting for Jim Jones to speak, but his silence was becoming the loudest thing in the room. He wasn't just fighting 50 Cent anymore, he was fighting a ghost inside his own camp. The digital coliseum has been opened, and the mob is thirsty for blood. By dawn, the rat emoji had become the official currency of the New York hip-hop timeline. The reaction to the Jim Jones versus G-Unit clash has split the culture into 2 warring factions, creating a level of toxicity that hasn't been seen since the mid-90s. On one side, the street purists are already calling for Jim Jones's head. To them, the mere mention of paperwork by a G-Unit associate, combined with Jim's visible panic on camera, is as good as a confession. In this game, where there's smoke, there's a fire, and Jimmy looks like he's burning. One viral post on X, formerly Twitter, read, garnering over 200,000 likes in an hour. These fans are demanding that Jim Jones be exiled from Harlem, arguing that 50 Cent has never missed when it comes to exposing the truth about his rivals. On the other side, the Dipset loyalists are screaming psychological warfare. They're accusing 50 Cent of being a digital terrorist who uses deepfake narratives and orchestrated ambushes to destroy legends he can't out-rap. This is a classic 50 setup, a prominent YouTube commentator shouted during an emergency live stream. He plants a fake seed, sends his goons to yell a lie, and lets the internet do the rest of the work. It's dirty, it's cold, and it's destroying the culture. The industry's heavy hitters are reacting with terrifying silence or cryptic shots. Rick Ross posted a video of himself on a private jet, laughing while holding a stack of legal-looking folders with the caption, "The truth is always in the filing cabinet, biggest." Even Fat Joe, the unofficial mediator of New York beef, went on live looking visibly shaken, telling his audience, "I've seen a lot of things, but I've never seen the energy this dark." New York is in a dangerous place right now. But the most brutal reaction came from the corporate side. A leaked internal memo, allegedly from a major streaming partner, suggested that any upcoming Dipset anniversary content be put on indefinite hold until the paperwork allegations are cleared. The brand is becoming radioactive. This is no longer just about a fight in a hallway. It's a financial and cultural execution. Division is everywhere. In Harlem, reports of G-Unit tags appearing on Jim's favorite blocks have led to localized standoffs. In Queens, fans are throwing meme parties in the streets, projecting 50's most disrespectful posts onto the sides of buildings. The world is watching, the blogs are feeding, and the pressure on Jim Jones to respond is becoming unbearable. But as the hate reaches a crescendo, the biggest question isn't whether Jim will speak. It's whether he can speak before the next leak drops. Just as the sun began to rise over the New York skyline, the final, most devastating twist of the night hit the internet like a digital nuclear strike. An anonymous insider with access to the arena's high-security server leaked a second video, and this one wasn't from a shaky smartphone. It was from a hidden, chest-mounted camera worn by someone standing directly behind the G-Unit vanguard. In this footage, the perspective is chillingly steady. It shows the hallway confrontation from the inside, but the final shocking revelation isn't the fight itself. It's what happens in the 30 seconds after Jim Jones was dragged away by his frantic team. As the hallway clears and the pepper spray settles, the camera pans to the left, into a darkened doorway. Standing there, wearing a smirk that could freeze the sun, is a figure nobody, not even the most obsessed conspiracy theorists, expected to see. It wasn't 50 Cent. It wasn't Tony Yayo. It was a former high-ranking member of Dipset who has been retired from the public eye for years. A man Jim Jones has called brother in every interview for 2 decades. The footage captures him shaking hands with the G-Unit associates, handing over a thick, manila folder. The audio is crisp. You can hear him whisper, "The trap is closed. He has no idea that I'm the one who gave 50 the keys to the studio. Tell Fifth the debt is paid." The internet has absolutely lost its mind. This wasn't a G-Unit versus Dipset war. This was an inside job. Jim Jones wasn't just ambushed by his enemies. He was sold out by the very foundation he built his life upon. The paperwork they mentioned? It wasn't just old files. The footage shows the man holding up the folder, and for a split second, the camera catches the label. It's a 2026 federal witness list, and Jim Jones's government name is circled in red. But the cliffhanger that has the entire industry paralyzed is the final 3 seconds of the clip. As the traitor walks away, he looks directly into the hidden camera, pulls down his mask, and winks. The video ends with a black screen and white text that reads, "The full, unedited confession drops at 6 p.m. New York will never be the same. The real king of Harlem is taking his throne back." Who is the traitor? Is 50 Cent just the face of a massive conspiracy to systematically erase Jim Jones from history? Sources say Jim's phone has been disconnected and his car was last seen speeding toward the George Washington Bridge, heading for the shadows. The hunt is on. The truth is coming. And New York is currently a powder keg waiting for 6 p.m. to hit. This is absolute insanity. Hip-hop hasn't seen a night this dark or a betrayal this cold since the 90s. We are witnessing the total collapse of a legacy in real time. But we want to know what you think. Who is the mastermind hiding in that footage? Is it a former brother? Or is 50 Cent playing the ultimate mind game? Drop your theories in the comments right now. The most shocking theory will be featured in our emergency update at 6 p.m. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe with all notifications turned on. You do not want to be left in the dark when that unedited confession drops. Is Jim Jones finished, or is Harlem about to explode? The clock is ticking. See you at 6 p.m. for the final revelation.